A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you that was better than I thought. Welcome in. We are live here on this Tuesday. Hope everybody had a wonderful Labor Day weekend, enjoyed a little extended time off as we turn the calendar to September, and we are away and running in football season again. Welcome in. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Of course, I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. A lot to do on today's show, including the Falcons getting ready to play on Sunday. We've got some stuff to do there. College football playoff expansion happened late last week. And again, I didn't get a chance to dive into it with everybody, so we'll touch on that today as well. We have plenty of Braves news to get to. And of course, we'll start with the Georgia Bulldogs and their 49-3 dismantling of the Oregon Ducks on Saturday. Now, again, full disclosure, I was on the wrong side of this one. Wrong side in the sense I took Oregon plus 18.5. It's dead. It was dead early. I always thought Georgia would win the game. I thought Oregon was going to be able to keep it a little bit closer than what they did. And what was most impressive to me, what stood out to me about this game more than anything, and I know secretly and privately, Kirby Smart was smiling and grinning ear to ear on this one, saying, hey, you guys doubt me. You guys doubted my guy, and this is what we do. And his guy, of course, is Stetson Bennett, who was phenomenal. I mean, just 25 of 31, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, ran for another. I mean, it was one of those things where he came out and reminded everybody very quickly, Stetson Bennett did, why he was given the starting job, why he won the national championship as a starter, and why he is back in the starting role again. That Oregon defense is not bad. It's not 49 points bad. They're not going to give up 49 points again this year. They shouldn't. They're talented enough where they shouldn't. They have one of the best defensive players in the country playing on their side of the football. And so, I look at this and I go, well, how did Georgia do this? Well, Stetson Bennett did it, like a lot of it. He was precise. He was accurate. He was smart with the football. He was everything that you want your quarterback to be in a high-level game. And I don't know that necessarily, Kirby even needed to gear things down. I talked about going into it, how he was always balanced in these games. He ran the ball 25 times and threw it 37. That's uncharacteristic for Kirby Smart. But it just speaks to the fact that he had so much trust in Stetson Bennett to be able to not make mistakes, that he allowed him the freedom to do what he wanted to do. The Dogs were 9 of 10 on third downs and amassed 571 yards. These are numbers that you put up against this week's opponent in Sanford. These are numbers you put up against, Utah State like Alabama did. These aren't numbers you put up against the top 10 team in the country, or top 11, whatever it was. These are not numbers you should put up. And they put them all up because their quarterback was outstanding. That's what it boils down to. Now, here's the big takeaway from this. Will Kirby let Stetson Bennett play at this level? And will the offense change to what we all wanted it to change to for years in Athens? Will he let it change to a pass-first offense like a lot of other big-time schools are, and ones that are competitive for national championships every single year? And that's not to say Georgia isn't competitive every single year. It's just to say that was the one takeaway. If that's going to be what they do week in and week out and throw 40 times a game, because you go back to last year, Stetson Bennett did not throw that much. Like, he did not average 37 throws a game. That's not who he is. It's not who well, let me rephrase that. It's not who he was. It might be who he is. You know how many times he threw for 37 times last year in a game? Once. In the loss to Alabama in the SEC championship game. You know how many times he threw over 20 last year during the regular season? Once. 41-17 win over Tennessee. I mean, he only threw the ball 26 times in the national championship game against Alabama. But that's not the way that offense was meant to be. And again, the beginning of the year, he was splitting last year, splitting some snaps with JT Daniels and all that. But once he took over as the starter again, he was in the 19-20 range the entire year. This was a dramatic pivot and a very hard pivot for Stetson Bennett. And it'll be interesting to see one thing and what they do. And if they, if Georgia goes back to being Georgia, I'll tell you that in a second here. First, a word to our friends from Built Bar. If you haven't tried Built Puffs Bar yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And there's a new flavor. You ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough. It's covered in chocolate. And that's right, Built's done it again. The cookie dough chunk puffs have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks. And of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Guys, I've had these before. They're amazing. They are the perfect snack when you're feeding something sweet and want something sweet, but don't want to be overfilled and don't want to make a bad health choice. They're only 116 calories. They have 15 grams of protein in them. They are delicious, tasty, and healthy for you. Go to Built.com, snag a box for your entire family, and it'll be the perfect treat. Or one you kind of put in the perfect hiding place where nobody else knows who they are but you because they're that good. So here's what you're going to do, okay? You're going to remember that Built Bars are not only tasty, but they're healthy for you. They're made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of great health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKEDON15 at Built.com. All right, back to Georgia here for a moment because, again, I am curious to see if there will be a pivot against certain opponents with Stetson Bennett. You're going to play Samford this week, and it's not going to matter. I mean, none of this stuff's going to count. They're going to destroy this team again. It'll be 55-3. Nonetheless, who cares? I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. But Georgia has, a bunch of games coming up in the schedule where they may be challenged a little bit more than what they were challenged at Oregon. And I don't know if it'll depend on it being game to game, right? Will they allow them to throw against weaker teams? Will they allow them to run more, or will they want them to run more against other teams? At some point in time, and again, they're not really going to see a very challenged opponent until they see Florida in the cocktail party. Like Georgia is going to be, 7-0 without breaking a sweat. They got to travel to Williams-Brice Stadium in South Carolina, and that typically has been a tough spot for Georgia. But I don't know that South Carolina and Shane Beamer have the athletes at this point in time. And they get a road game against Missouri, but the two toughest opponents they may see, Florida and Tennessee, they neutral site in a home game. So, I mean, if there is anything that makes me believe that Georgia can repeat again as national champions, it's what I saw from Stetson Bennett in week 1. And that was a guy who was incredibly posed to look like somebody who might contend for the Heisman. Now, I poo-pooed that whole concept. I shooed it away. I thought it was ridiculous and laughable. Might be wrong again, folks. It's not out of the realm of possibility. That's how well he played, that all of a sudden his Heisman odds jumped from 200 to 1 to 120 to 1. Yeah, keep your eye on it. Maybe get in now if you can. All right, coming up next, the mentality around the Falcons locker room has changed, but it can all change back very quickly. I'll explain that next, right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, you search Locked On Sports Atlanta.